Yeshua, your King of praise. Shalom, everyone. This is Messianic Rabbi Buzz Tremé, the Jew teaching you. Welcome to our Bible study. Yeshua, you are the way. Yeshua.
So, Abraham entered into covenant, and we're going to move now to the Mosaic. What time is it? I'm kind of 6 o'clock p.m. All right. So yeah, 5 good. We got another 35 minutes, man, and look, we'll do it fast. Okay. All right. So Abraham and his covenant. We just read it. What page? 33. But we're going to move to 34. So, now by the way, some of the covenants have mediators, some do not. And a mediator, in Galatians chapter 3, tells us the purpose. It's a person or a being that stands in between two parties and mediates. Right? A covenant established with a mediator. Moses was the mediator of the old covenant. And it was actually given through angels. This is what the New Testament talks about so much, that, hey, that was a serious deal when God singles out a nation and gives them a covenant that's going to affect the whole world because everybody's going to see it and be influenced by it. And that angels actually came from above, or from out there, and they came and they led the people, instructed the people, helped them, and gave the law to Moses. So the law, remember when you read the book of Numbers about the travels during the wilderness experience, when they came out of Egypt and they wandered for 40 years in the wilderness? Well, it talks about the glory being a fire by night and a cloud by day. It would rise up, and when it rose up above the tabernacle where the Ark of the Covenant was, the people, it was a sign, pack up the gear, pack up your tents, folks, we're moving again. And it says that sometimes it would be a short distance, and then the glory would come back down, and everybody would stop and recamp, set up their camp. Sometimes they would go for a year. They never stopped traveling. That's what the Bible tells us. So in that story, if you'll read it, Numbers chapter 33 and 34, you'll see some angels involved. And one of them particularly is called the angel of the capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D. Angel of the Lord. Well, when you see that, you're talking about a specific guy, and it is he, and I'm saying this because I believe this, and many people do. It took me years to finally be convinced. It is this angel of the Lord, and that's his title, servant of the Lord, that mean he was created, who became the man Yeshua. We know that Yeshua was with God. He did all this stuff. He created the universe. He created all things. He was with God, but we never know exactly who he is. So when you see angel of the Lord, you're talking about the representative of Yahweh, who always does God's will. He does what God's want. He's the logo. He's the word. Okay? And he became flesh in the New Testament. So, okay, but there are other angels. And one time, the Lord says to Moshe, now who was the Lord talking to Moshe? It was this angel of the Lord. And so the angel of the Lord said to Moshe, okay, I want you to go, I've got an angel over here. He's going to lead the people. But tell the people, don't give this guy any problems. He won't put up with it. That's what it said right there in the book of Numbers. And 33 and 34, I believe. And he says, wait a minute. Moses says it. I don't know this guy. Tell him it's the angel. I don't know him. You ain't going? I ain't going. He says, if you're not going, we're not going. I'm not going on this long journey without you. It's like, it couldn't get any more clear. And the angel probably standing over here, hey, look, I'm just in the army and I got orders. I'm told to lead them, and if they get me in trouble, I laser them. That's what was going on. And so what did the Lord say, the angel of the Lord? When it says, what did the Lord say? We're talking about the angel of the Lord, okay? What did he do? What did he say? He said, all right, Mo, I'll go with you. And Mo said, high five. And they went together. This is all biblical. So we need to see the big picture. So when Yeshua comes along, and he's the man, Yeshua HaNazaret, Jesus the Nazarene, when he came, think about it. He had already lived from the beginning, if there ever was a real beginning. He's always been with God. He was with Moshe in the wilderness and with the children of Israel. He knew all the stuff that had been spoken. He was actually the voice giving it to Moshe. Now, later, he's a human, and you think he doesn't know the law? And these people are going to debate with him? But we're on the other side looking back, though, guys. It had to be a little different when you were in it, right? Okay, so, keeping my thoughts. Oh, so there was no mediator in the Abrahamic covenant. Now, that concludes, I think it does. Yeah. Concludes it. Is that a typo on page 34? Well, maybe I'm on page
34 and 35.
All right, go to page 36. I might have gotten all my pages mixed up there. But it doesn't matter because we're talking about these covenants. And somebody tell me when we have about 5 minutes time left. Huh? Yeah. So the Mosaic covenant. Now, this is the covenant that took place when they came out of Egypt. It is not... let me think how to say this. It falls within the framework of the Abrahamic. So God had made a covenant with Abraham, and he said, you're going to become a great nation. And he says, now your descendants are going to go to Egypt, and they're going to come out, etc., etc. So all the time, God is fulfilling his promise to Abraham, but the way he's going through it requires establishing a covenant with the people when they come out of Egypt. So they're not only under the Abrahamic covenant, but they're also going to be under the Mosaic covenant. And what was the purpose? And we'll read it as we study it. But the Mosaic covenant was to hold the people until the time of Messiah. So the time of Messiah was a date in God's mind that came about when all of the nations, we're talking about the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Scythians, all of these empires and nations had done their work and had collapsed and risen and fallen. All of this was taking place. Things were going on in North America. Things were going on in Europe. Mankind was doing and developing. And when the time reached its fullness or fulfillment, while the Romans were ruling over the Jews, and before that, who ruled over them? The Persians and the Medes and the Babylonians. Before that, they were independent nation. 586 BC, they collapsed to the Babylonians, then the Medo-Persians, then the Greeks, then the Romans. Yeshua is born while the Romans were occupying the land and ruling over them. When we talk about Israel being back in the land, do you realize what this means after these 2,500 years of being subdued by others, and the nations of the world are still trying to put them under their thumb? But they're back in the land, and they will grow and eventually accept their king And look, he's going to crush all their enemies and set up the kingdom. Wow! I just love it. So, the name of the covenant is the Mosaic covenant, but sometimes called the Levitical covenant. Okay? Because it was also in this covenant came the establishment, the birthing of the Levitical priesthood. The priests who descended from Levi, one of the 12 tribes of Israel, but the high priest had to come from the order of Aaron. They had to come from Aaron distinctively. But all the other Levites were a part of the servant class of the priesthood. So if you were a Levite, you were born, you couldn't own property because your portion was the Lord's. As the people paid their taxes or their tithes to the Lord, you were a priest, therefore you got, it was taken care of. That's why God wanted it. He wanted his priests to be able to minister without having the burden of provision. That was what it's all about. So all of this takes place when the Mosaic covenant is given. It's also called the Sinai covenant very often because that's where it was given. And most of you know the story of the Exodus. And if you don't, you can read it in the Bible, in the book of Exodus. So, let's see. Exodus chapter 20 is where the law is given, or the covenant is made. And Galatians 4:25 tells us that this particular place was in Sinai. Now it's funny, in Arabia. Sinai is in Arabia. The place that the Catholic Church has called the Mount Sinai, and tourists have gone there. I've been there myself, and paid homage. And they have a bush there. They said it with chicken wire around it. They said it's the real descendant of the burning bush, and the tourists are all trying to reach and get leaves off of it. They'll do anything to make anyway. And you look around, and there's not a single sign of anything burning or any burn marks or any. It's like, this doesn't really look like the Bible picture that the picture painted. Well, it's because it's not right. But in modern times, thank God, in Arabia, they've found the true Mount Sinai. And it's got all the markings. It's got all the writings. It's got the soles of the feet engraved on the rocks with the words, "Wherever my soul touches, this land is mine," And 12 pillars are stood up for the 12 tribes, just like it says in the tops of the mountains, they're rock. They are vitrified, meaning they have turned to what is like glass. When you put enough heat on a rock, it'll turn like glass. And it's just like, instead of being snow-capped, they're black-capped with this vitrification. So the true Mount Sinai exists, and it's a little difficult to get to it because of the Islamic world not wanting the things of God. When the truth comes out, it kind of makes them look bad. So anyway, shall I say more? But we need to understand where Mount Sinai is. It's in Arabia.
Oh, Yeshua.